Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Whole Perspective. My name is Kevin Delarty, Chief Lending Officer with EPM. As always, joined by my co-host and good friend, Kenny Phillips, Senior Vice President of TPO with EPM. Today, we got a great guest. And before I let Kenny do the introduction, you're on the right show. I am not wearing a sport coat today. I'm not wearing a dress shirt. I wanted to be as real as I possibly could be for this episode.
It's like trading places.
Yeah, 100%. Right. And the shirt's perfect for, having our today's guest. I've learned more and opened up more with this guy. So I want it to be as much 100% true to myself of who I am for this episode because this guy's made such a big impact on me. But without further ado, I'll let Kenny go ahead and introduce our guest.
Absolutely. Let's give a little background about Jay. Ever since Jay was a child, his curiosity about culture emanated from the core of his being. He was born to be an entrepreneur, and at a young age, Jay was closed off, shutting others out, and always contemplated his entrepreneurial future. Jay is self-motivated and obsessed with understanding himself along with his place in the world. Discipline comes naturally to him, as he believes that is where value comes from. Over the last decade, after working from his entrepreneurial slumber, where all his focus was on building, earning, yearning, he shifted gears. His focus then became wholeheartedly to find the answers to the question he had surrounding what culture is, what listening is, what thinking is, what truth is, how people can align their beliefs, how a business maintains a value system, and what a business is. Today, Jay has those answers he had aggressively sought after, and he believes he solves the necessary, inevitable, and valuable problems that arise in every business. Jay does this with immense gratitude, satisfaction, and responsibility every day, thus proving that culture matters. Welcome, Jay.
Wow. Thanks for having me. I want to read a quote that I thought of before this because it resonates with what Kevin said. Quote, I was ashamed of myself when I realized that life was a costume party and I intended with my real face. Franz Kafka. That's something I wrote down before we got on. And then Kevin said what he said. I just think I'm so excited to have this opportunity to talk with you guys and for people to be a part of this conversation. So I just want to share that.
That's a hell of a quote.
Where are we starting?
As always, you hit me, and I'm going to share something with you guys. It's funny. I was planning on doing this at the end. And first of all, any competitor of EPM should be tuning into this, and you'll learn some of our secret sauce because we feel our only competitors ourselves. But you might be able to learn some things on how to improve your culture. But, you just said something, and wow. As always, Jay really gets me in deep thought. And I'm going to let go of a mask I'm wearing. And this week, I heard something in the news about, the DJ from the Ellen DeGeneres show committing suicide. Anyone that doesn't know me, knows that my brother passed away last year. And he did that by committing suicide. And it's something that I've held onto for a long time and haven't really talked about. And I don't talk about, how I feel and what's going on inside me. And between Eddie Perez and Jay Doran and making me dig deeper in Culture Matters, everyone on the team of Culture Matters, making me dig deeper into myself has helped me. And it happens today. I've let go of the shame of my brother committing suicide and really honor his memory versus being ashamed of how he took his life, being such a strong person. So your quote just hit me so hard. I wanted to get that off my chest, and I wanted to get into some other questions first. So, I'm sorry for starting off on such an emotional note, but there it is. That's what happened. There's no shame in that. That was somebody that was struggling with something that couldn't deal with it, couldn't cope with it anymore, and did what they thought was right. Nothing I could have done could have stopped that or anyone else in his life. So I would tell anyone that sees someone that's struggling, reach out and ask a lot of questions. That's something you've taught me, Jay. Eddie's taught me, is I ask a lot of questions now. And if you ask enough questions, you may have uncovered something to maybe possibly help that person. But in the end, everything returns to its creator. And it's funny, I'm just finished The Art of Living. And, it's something that helped me let go. So anyway, sorry about that, guys. I think your quote just punched me right in the gut. So there you go.
No, it's.
Whew. But now on to the show. Sorry, guys. I think Jay, thank you for helping me with that self-discovery. The question I was really preparing for you today is, it's funny. I don't like to read a lot or listen to a lot of the person's previous podcasts or videos. I like to really get to know them on the show. That's what I think makes our show so real. And it's real, right? And last night I was thinking about something that's going on in our industry. And it's so competitive, and we talk about this word culture, and people get the word culture confused, and we talk about community, and they get that confused of how that fits in with culture, and they talk about loyalty, and I was thinking about the word loyalty last night, and thinking about, I'd said to somebody, loyalty, what are your take on this? Loyalty is not something that you can demand of somebody. Loyalty is not something that you can teach somebody. Loyalty is something you get from your actions from another person. And I want to get that from you, because in our industry, everybody's saying this one's loyal, that's loyal. We have all these organizations fighting for loyalty. But if we're a true community and we truly want culture, it's allowing people with different voices and different opinions to be heard, and all get to ultimately get to the same place, the same destination. But everyone throws around the word loyalty. What does the word loyalty mean to Jay Doran?
Control. Well, the order matters. Let's start with something I think about a lot. Belief being confused with trust. Until anyone that listening to this has time to spend with me to see if what I say on this is actually integrated in my actions, how I relate with them, how I relate with others, like in the presence of them, whoever is watching this, until anyone watching this has time to spend with me, then everything that I'm saying is just conjecture, potential, belief. So trust would be, if you spend time with me and I do demonstrate openness to conflict, to conversation, to reading, to writing, the things that I talk about, if someone follows me, and I demonstrate integrity, I keep my word. Like whatever I prescribe to, or say I prescribe to, whatever I articulate or think that I am, you spend time with me, then there would be arguably an ability to say, okay, I trust this person based on their actions. Prior to watching me and interacting me in person, then we're just at belief. Now, how does this tie into the loyalty dialogue? Well, I think, of course, how could I not seek loyalty when I felt betrayed in the past? And how could I not have felt betrayed at one time in my life? Period. Meaning life is complex. There's ups and downs. Right now, the time in the market, it will, and that's why I thought of that quote. It's going to reveal us. We're at this party when times are good. That the costume, it projects. We question less. We have less of a reason to listen, less of a reason to rethink our hypotheses, our opinions. So loyalty, I want to say this practically. The order matters. I think what you said, I wrote it down. Kevin, you said loyalty is something you get from your actions. So yes, if I demonstrate trustworthiness based on how I act off of this with whoever meets me, it's in alignment with what I'm saying, one has more reason to trust me. Everything prior to that is belief. I'm going to seek loyalty if I've been betrayed or felt betrayed. I'm going to trust less. It's like that domino of pain. I think of dominoes. One domino falls and then they all fall. I have to break that cycle. I believe that I can break that cycle if I forgive. God, that question is a deep question for me. I think about this a lot. So I think the order matters. What you're saying, loyalty will be a naturally occurring, let's say, will naturally occur in a relationship that's rooted where I keep my word and my counterpart keeps their word, or if they don't keep their word, I share, hey, I don't think you're keeping your word and here is why. and we can work through it. It's like, I think loyalty is more of a symptom than a catalyst for a relationship. And it's naturally sought. We all seek it, but how we seek it matters. Right? That would be my short answer to loyalty. And the reason I bring up the belief and the trust is, if we're unsure of how to draw a line of demarcation, a line in the sand of demarcation between trust and belief, we may not ask the questions we need to ask to see, is this the leader that I want to follow?
Right.
Or am I just going to take everything at their word and worship them? And this is like an element of, you talk about culture, talk about business. It's an element of life in business. So that's does that somewhat answer your question?
Absolutely. I think, should you expect loyalty? Like a lot of times if you get disappointed, right? I think that if you're clear and you're transparent and you feel like you're doing the right things and earn their trust and loyalty, should you expect the loyalty? Is it, how do I've had companies that we work for and we've done the right things with employees and they were disloyal, and you say, well, I expected them to be loyal after all I've done and what I've, put on the table. Should I be disappointed?
Well, let's think of this one. I think one will have an increased likelihood or decreased likelihood to expect loyalty based on the things they've gone through in their life. If I'm aware that it's something that's very important to me, okay, now I have as Kierkegaard would say, life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards. I can self-reflect and say, okay, who do I have to talk to from the past? What can I embrace? Is there forgiveness there? Simultaneously, if I do have that expectation in my interpersonal relationships or in my community of a business, the expectation of loyalty, well, then if I feel I'm being betrayed, someone doesn't keep their word or something of that nature, I better tell them. And I better be aware that that's a touch point for me, because how I tell them will increase or decrease the likelihood of them being honest with me. I may scare them. I may be acting out of a narrative of behavior I'm not even aware that I'm acting out based on the past experiences I've had. So I would say to someone that's saying should, because should is a subjective, and that's an important projection psychologically. We all have a level of subjective projection of what we want to create. Be aware of that. Okay, that's important to you. Well, why? Maybe there's other relationships one could explore. And if you do see that a misalignment, let's say, of what you seek in your interpersonal relationships, in your business culture specifically, bring it up to the person. Right. Be aware that whether it's me or you or anybody, we are more likely to bring it up in a group setting because it's safer. Well, that also increases shame in the other person and is a level of control. And we can easily martyr that person and then create a whole group think that person's evil. And then, ironically undermine our culture, but everyone could be on the same page. It's very, by the way, the reason I study culture is because kind of what you alluded, in the beginning with that part novel you were reading. I've been on a search for myself. Business is, for various reasons, been attractive to me. In the beginning, it was more of feeling unheard and wanting influence and wanting power. It's developed over time into just truly like wanting to be a whole person. And I don't understand. I don't know. And I haven't read anything where anyone clearly understood culture. When you get deep down into it, there's just deep disagreements of what culture is and it's essentially what people are. And we're all trying to do our best. So I hope that gives anyone listening to this a practical self-analysis of, hey, if your expectation is of loyalty in your culture, well, why? And then if you perceive people being disloyal, how are you approaching them? Are you doing it in one-on-one? Are you asking questions? Are you listening? Are you going deeper? Are you jumping to conclusions and cutting them off and cutting to the core and not realizing it? But as far as what are the values that work within a culture, it's a dynamic, it's an ever evolving, there is a level of opaqueness to it. And I do think that specifically on the loyalty conversation, I've thought about it a bunch. I think the order matters. It would be, like Kevin alluded to, a symptom of the trust. But first we have to get clear on, do I believe in this person or do I trust them? What's the difference? And yes, can it be both? Absolutely. You have to believe that anything that I'm saying is worth listening to prior to meeting me if you're going to spend time doing it, because your body and your brain is designed to conserve energy. So right now, everyone listening to this is just, if they don't follow me and haven't read any of my book or anything, then they're just borrowing the belief that Kevin and Kenny have translated and pushed towards me. Whatever bias they have of you two, that starts with the belief. So trust would be, you meet me in person, you say, this guy doesn't even read, he doesn't work on himself, he just constantly, hypocritical. Now, by the way, that's an element that lives in all of us that I don't think we escape at varying degrees. But you could make a value decision. Okay, I trust him now based on his actions. I believe in him. So I don't want to make a conspiracy against belief. So does that somewhat create some practicality? And I don't know, like the audience, maybe they're going through potentially a time where I would argue, like in the industry, if this is industry specific, what else do we have other than our character and our relationships in times of crisis? So I'm thinking, if I'm the audience, why is this relevant? Am I going to a therapist's office right after this? Or am I listening to some business lecture? Well, what do we have other than our ability to project who we perceive ourselves to be, or others perceive ourselves to create opportunities? And what else do we have other than how we relate to our relationships in times of crisis, and how we relate to ourselves increases our ability to be responsible in times of crisis. So I would like to hopefully inspire someone listening to this, that this could actually be a helpful dialogue to re-listen to in a time, if you consider it a time of crisis. Because I don't know what else I have other than to work harder, to be more compassionate and empathetic and honest, and to give up more and to work smarter in a time of crisis. I don't know if you have any more questions to that.
Yeah, no, you said something there, and Kenny, back to your question. I think what I've learned from my last year and 3 months of getting to know you, getting to know Eddie, getting to know Jenna, getting to know a lot of people, I've learned a lot about myself. Something I've never done in the Fairby 51 in 2 days, and my first 50 years on this earth, never once tried that, right? And I think you also have to be prepared to accept loyalty. And what I mean by that is, you had said something about your childhood and past experiences. You got to let it all go. You got to be willing to let somebody in, because you can't get loyalty and you can't receive loyalty and you can't demonstrate all the things you need to do to get loyalty until you let people in and you be 100% honest to who you are, right, until you embrace those things. Like sharing what I shared at the beginning of this episode I'm an open book. I need to be an open book. If I expect Kenny to follow me, I expect Kenny to, if not follow me, walk side by side with me, because that's not loyalty. If you want someone to follow you, it's really when they're walking side by side with you. That's trust, that's loyalty, that's all of those things. Right. So I think, the one thing I would say is, I think instead of chasing what the word and what the action you think is in your head of loyalty, yeah, they do what I say, and and if I ask them for a favor, that they're right beside me. Are you willing to be, like you had said, being open, honest? You letting them to let you into the real Kevin Galori, the real Jay Doran, the culture man. Are you willing to do all of those things, Kenny, to let them, 100% see who you are and be vulnerable? Because that's the real you. And that's what I've learned about myself. I've learned more in the last year and 3 months than I've learned in the first, like I said, 50 years. And it was a lot to do with reading, learning about myself, willing to not just read the book, to understand the book, to really question what my belief system is, and open up and be more patient, and really take 72 hours a lot of times to think something through that is complex, rather than just running my mouth so people could hear me say that I'm in, hey, he's interested, he gave me an answer. Right. I don't always have an answer when you ask me a question. It's something that I need to say. Give me some time to think on this and really dig deep in me to give you a real meaningful answer, rather than just some mouth music. I'm just going to throw some words your way, make you feel good, and pat you on the tail and say, see you later. So I think that's real loyalty. It starts with, if you want it, it starts with you. It's not an action from somebody else accepting you. It's you opening up and saying, here, this is who I am. This is the real me. And to you said, like you said, it's your beliefs, it's your truths. I think people want to skip that step right? When I was a young leader, I wanted to skip that step. Hey, you work for me. You should be loyal to me. Bullshit.
Right.
No. Get to know me. Watch my actions. See if I'm real. And then those are the things that are going to create that journey of an unbreakable loyalty versus some superficial BS that somebody tells you because you're going to give them the next pay raise, you're going to give them the next lead. You know, and in our business, look around and just ask yourself, am I being the real me? Am I opening up and really embracing these people to be alongside me? Or am I just giving them what they want to create this false loyalty to make myself feel better? Right. So that's my take. I know I just probably went, you know, Jay, you always make me go deep. So, you know, there it is. There's some deep inside of me, what I really believe it to be. And I think what I felt very good when you were answering it, because I'm like, all right, because I really did been thinking about this for 4 days of really what it means to me. And it's what you said. It's your actions. It's your words. It's what you believe in and sharing that. So, I mean, I never thought we could have a whole episode on loyalty, but you know, it means that much to me. And it means that much to Kenny. So
absolutely. 100%.
But maybe the listeners too, if they work with a company of varying degrees of employment or they own a company, keep in mind that people that venture out on their own to start something, they go through processes of unlearning. If we look at monarchies, you know, in the old days, land was given for what? Protection. That's something I've observed in the business culture, that there's a time and a place where that occurs, and cultures outgrow that, and some don't. And oftentimes, when times are good, the level of natural entitlement of everyone is automatically going to increase, which in that process of realignment, reanalysis of any sector, any industry under times of crisis, there's a natural call to seek, hey, who's on my team? And it isn't necessarily a conspiracy against others for one to want that or to seek it. Just like earlier in our conversation about Kenny, you asked about, hey, if my expectation is loyalty. We all have experiences that we've gone through that influence how we behave with others. So I would just like to add that companies, businesses, they go through life cycles, they grow and they learn. If they are learning, meaning they have open leadership that is working to improve, I think anyone listening to this, look for that. Look for that, because that could be the antidote to some of the negative symptoms that happen when times are good, or that are revealed in time. I'm sorry, the negative symptoms that occur when times are good that reveal themselves when times are bad.
Right.
They don't reveal themselves until times are bad. Generally.
Yeah. You're the culture expert, you know, Jay Doran, the culture man. You pretty much got your doctorate in culture, you know, and culture's thrown around a lot. You know, it's like a buzzword in the industry. A lot of people abuse it. They really don't understand culture. From your perspective and your experience, you know, why is it so important and why is it so prevalent today in business? I know we don't have a lot of time, so I threw that. It's probably a longer question.
Okay, here's one. Look at what we're doing. I do, you know, as we look at the opportunity for everyone listening to this that can share what they think, what they feel, what they have to say. There's a radical, open opportunity for the whole world to have a voice. We see the pros of that. We see arguably cons. We see in a macro level, our country, right? That is increasing the level of responsibility necessary for companies to maintain the respect, the mutual respect and trust of their employees. It's a ping pong. It's revealing the cracks. And those that do not develop the ability to act out the narratives they preach, they will have massive, massive turnover, and they will lose their margins. And this is going to continue, and it's going to hit a curve, an exponential curve. I don't know when, but the opportunity for people, just individuals, is that, yes, we have the opportunity to have in this country, at least right now, the ability to speak what's on our mind, generally, almost always. And now with these social platforms, that's exacerbated. So if we work with and for an organization, imagine the pressure the organization is under to maintain the level of influence, trust, to maintain the relationship with the employees, to maintain the relationship with the customers. That's why we're seeing this massive swing to employees focused. A lot of times, and it isn't an either or. The order matters. We can forget about the customer, and then we can forget about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then all of a sudden the pendulum swings in the whole other direction, where it just ends up undermining the whole organization. So essentially, organizations are under a tremendous amount of pressure to deliver to the expectation of the marketplace, because individuals, people, everyone listening to this has arguably never had an opportunity as great as this to share what they think, what they feel, and be a broker of opportunity for whatever service or product or service that they are delivering to whatever customers that they were facing. So the opportunity goes both ways. Organizations have never, they have this amazing, astounding opportunity to scale their story. Like, I break down the culture to the story, the language, the symbolisms, the mediums, and the heroes, the individuals that make up the culture. And I hope that gives someone listening to this some level of awareness around the personal opportunity that you have to be an influence and influential in your life with those around you, your peers, your subordinates, your authorities. And I hope it wakes up some of the companies in the marketplace that, hey, there's if responsibility falls on the most aware, but those at the top, they're like pushing a boulder up the hill. The higher we all go to the top, the less aware we will be implicit unless we work on it. And the more, so that pendulum can swing. So that's what my short answer to that. I hope that's.
Kenny, I'm going to skip the last question because I think we have so much more to cover. We're going to do another episode with Jay, because this is, there's so much to talk about. And I'm everything he says is so true. This isn't a guy who's just, you are the deepest thinker I've ever met, which has forced me to become a deep thinker. Not forced me, inspired me, I would say. When you ask me a question, you often will sit there and just Jay's stare and intent, he's thinking already, waiting for you to, and he's not asking the question for me to respond. He wants me to really deep dive inside me. And sometimes he'll ask me another question after that, and he keeps pushing me to learn more about myself. So any company that wants to learn about culture, I mean, Jay Doran, the culture man, it's catchy. I say it every time I'm in, I do a lot of traveling, and anytime I hear someone usually next to me talk about their business struggling, I ask them what their culture is. It's always my first question. And they give me some bullshit that's on their business card and bullshit they paint on their wall in their office. Real culture's right here. Real culture's right here. You live it, you eat it, you breathe it, and you've taught us that. I thought I had loyalty. I have loyalty to the 10th degree because of my actions and my thought of how I treat people. That's culture, of listening to them, bringing them in, and doing the right things, making the tough decisions. So this is the secret sauce, everyone. I mean, we're going to have Jay back on again because we're not even, we're at a time constraint, but we got so many more questions to ask. But I want to just tell you how powerful you are to the growth of Kenny and I, to the growth of EPM. You and Eddie have really pushed me. I've when I read more books in the last year than I read in the last 25 years. It's amazing how much I'm learning about myself, how much I'm opening up, and how much Kenny and I are growing as leaders. And that's really thanks to you. What you're bringing to EPM, to Eddie's really, embracing it and taking it to the next level. So thank you so much for being here. I know you have to jump, but we're definitely going to have you back on because we have so much more to ask you. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Stay tuned for, Jay Doran, the Culture Man 2.0. Jay, thank you by the way, I'm glad that quote, it really took something that was holding me back off my chest. And I'm glad I got that out where everyone knows the truth now. There it is. I don't have to, there's no shame there.
Thank you, Jay. Kevin, thank you for being vulnerable, bro. I know that's something that weighed heavy on you, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. And as always, if you want to learn more, Kevin at EPM.net, Kate Phillips at EPM.net. You can always check out Jay, Culture Matters. Follow him on LinkedIn. He drops gems upon gems upon gems.
Yes.
Jay, we look forward to having you back again to continue this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.